When you talk about bumping a player, it's pretty much
great courage. One that says the bump is dead, that's how you deliver it.
What is going on, YouTube universe? My name is Trent. Some of you guys might know me as Zirra for other content I throw out on YouTube, and welcome to the Hip and Shoulder, where today we're back at it again with more Afl Supercoach for the 2024 season. We're going to be looking at my particular performance over round 4 before diving into my tips and moves for round 5. And I'm going to be doing something a little bit different this week. We're going to talk about debutants from last week that we should consider, maybe even some players that are dropping severely in price that should be on your radar moving forward, as well as covering scores from last night's game, because it's obviously Friday and there was a game on Thursday, and I think I'm going to start uploading my Supercoach videos now on a Friday, because we get that initial team reveal for lineups and so forth for that weekend on a Thursday night, minus the extended benches for Sunday. So I feel it's probably prudent for myself making this content to leave it for a Friday drop, even if it does mean we're sacrificing getting the video out ahead of a Thursday night game being played, just so we can discuss some potential debutants that are named or players that have been brought back into teams that might be Supercoach relevant as well. I'm just wanting to really grab the bull by the horns and run with this, because I've really been enjoying making content on this channel, and I do hope you guys have been enjoying it as well. Hopefully as much as I enjoyed my score that I pulled from round 4, because I scored a very respectable 2,299 points. I was on track to score close enough to 2,400, and a couple of players let me down. Kieran Briggs, namely, only getting a 78 when I thought he would have gone well over 100. But that still put me in the top 7% of the Supercoach fraternity. I moved round 4 rank 54,000 spots, if you don't mind. And I currently, season ranking, moved up over 21,500 spots to move into the almost top 60,000 odd, sitting at 71,775 currently. Very excited about finally getting a little bit of recognition for the team that I am slowly building, because I have burnt 3 boosts already out of the 5 that we have, and I was a little bit concerned that some of the pod picks that I went with early were letting me down a little bit too much, and I've had to pivot more so than I thought I would have for the start of the year. But I'll take that as a round 4 score. All the moves that I have made are starting to become a little bit more fruitful, and as we turn attention to the team itself, even though I have shifted my vice captaincy and captaincy to align more with round 5, I did have the captain on Isaac Heaney straight up. He played the early game last week, and I didn't really have any loophole options, so I had to roll with it. It was either lock the captaincy on him or forego it, and I'm glad I did, because he scored 165. Thank you very much. Very happy with that. I lost one of my particular leagues this week by 30 points. That 30 points could have easily been had I played Sam Darcy on the field over Aaron Cadman. Spewing that was the case. But as you can still see, minus the Zach Reed that I still have in my defense, who is due to come back in 2 to 3 weeks, and I'm happy to hold him there until that point in time, I still have all my bench rookies scoring, generating money. However, we're getting to the point where some of these rookies are starting to plateau a little bit with their money generation. I know Jai Clark and Darcy Wilson, for example, 2 of my mid bench rookies, are only due to start making like 10 grand a pop, so they're starting to really level out, and I don't think there's much cash to be made by dropping them down to anybody, so probably going to keep them for bench coverage at the very least. I'm not going to make 3 trades this week. I'm saving a boost. I'm making 2 trades. I'm already sold on the trades I am going to do. But before we dive into those trades, a little bit of further reflection for round 4 is needed to be had, because there were a handful of players that played their first game for 2024, some of which I think definitely need to be on your radar. We had Mitch Georgiades from Port Adelaide, forward currently. priced at 230k, managed a 99 score. I don't know whether we're going to see that consistently out of him, but if you're looking to drop a James Jordan or a Nat Fife down to a 200k odd player, he might be an option for you. But I think the big one that's going to be traded in over the next couple of weeks is Charlie Comben from North Melbourne. He is currently listed as a forward, but he played 100% game time as a defender last week, and he will be doing so moving forward. So he's pretty much a lock to get that forward defensive DPP after round 7. Priced at 227k, scored 129, and I think he's going to be, as I said, on the lips of many Supercoach coaches moving forward. I'm one that's actually going to be looking at bringing in Comben next week. Patrick Parnell from Adelaide, a defender, 175k, scored the 27. You probably want to pass on him. Ethan Reid, the ruck from the Gold Coast, 171k, 44 as a Supercoach score. Given they had Jared Witts in the team, he played more of a forward-centric role. I don't know whether for his price point he is worth looking at. There is definitely better options around his price point and less than his price point. James Tunstall from Brisbane, forward, 123k, only scored the 21. He was the starting sub in that game. He was the sub last night for the the Melbourne-Brisbane game, and didn't even get subbed on for the game. So he scored nothing. Yeah, I don't think he's worth the look if he's going to be a starting sub at best. Max Ramsden from Hawthorn, forward, 123k, 71. Could be one to consider. I don't know what his job security is going to be like, though, so I'm going to be watching that one very closely. Will Graham from the Gold Coast, defensive mid DPP, 117k, 67 for his first score, and I do like him as an option. I'm actually considering next week doing a double downgrade to bring in Charlie Comben and Will Graham just to build some cash up, so once those DPPs come flying out of round 7, I can start making some moves. Kane McCullough from Richmond, 117k midfielder, only scored the 16 points. He came in late as the sub for Richmond against St Kilda, racked up 4 or 5 touches early, laid a tackle, and then hurt himself and pretty much sat out the rest of the game. I want to see more of him because he has been tearing it up in the VFL. I believe of the 2 games he has played, he's averaged over 30 disposals, over 15 contested possessions, and is leading the MVP award for the VFL. So if he can get a full crack, I'm definitely keen to see him at the level. The man of the hour, however, is Sam Closey from the Gold Coast. Defender, 102k, so his basement price, 108 Supercoach on debut, if you don't mind. And something to keep in mind here is that Hardwick dropped Buderick and Sexton for this kid, and this kid did those older players no favors by playing as well as he did. I think with the role he played, as well as Sam Flanders moving back to a halfback flank, it's going to force Buderick and Sexton out of the team for quite some time. And I'm going to hazard to say Closey's probably going to be Closey to the most traded in player this week. And just to give you a little bit of a heads up of the trades I'm making this week, Closey is one that I am going to be bringing in personally to make some moves. And the final one on debut last week was Locke Rawlinson from West Coast, mid forward, 102k, 11 Supercoach. Pretty sure he was the starting sub for that game as well and didn't get too much of a run, but I could be wrong in saying that, but I don't think 11 Supercoach is anything to really get hyped over. With that all being said, I did mention we already have had a game go down, Melbourne going down to Brisbane at the MCG last night by 22 points, and we had some players that I think have now moved onto my radar more so than others. Max Gawn is one that I'm still spewing. I didn't start at the start of the year. I went for Briggs as a point of difference. I'm now looking at either shifting Briggs or Grundy after the Melbourne bye to get Gawn back in, which is unfortunate that I've got to burn a trade, but I'm happy to do so. Rivers isn't really too much of a viable option, but I mean, he played a lot of midfield time. He got 101. Looking at some relevancy for Melbourne, Jack Billings had a 70, but I don't think he's been scoring consistently enough to be a keeper. Oliver only scored a 65 in a game where Christian Salem went down with a hamstring in the first 4 minutes of the game. He ended up having to play at half-back for most of the game in the end, and was exposed with his lack of fitness and defensive pressure. He could have very well pushed a 90 plus had he had stayed as a pure midfielder, but we've seen since he's come back in with this hand injury he's been hacking the ball off the ground. He's been very unclean with disposal. The clangers are really hurting his score. This game is going to probably see him drop down to about 500k. They go into the bye next round, and then they face Richmond in the Anzac Day Eve clash, where Richmond are obviously going to let the Melbourne midfielders run absolutely rampant, so he could get 100 plus that week. But the fact that we're getting Oliver at a 500k price point could be worth looking at just to see how his role develops. If he can still maintain high pressure numbers with tackling and stuff like that to generate some score, I definitely think he's still worth considering. Petrarca only scoring a 59 helps out a lot of players as well, because I'm one that is looking at getting Petrarca in at some point, but at 660k, it's very hard to try and generate that cash to find a rookie to get up to him. You're going to have to cash out on 2 rookies and then take another rookie up, or a mid-pricer at best. So Petrarca is still very much on my watch list as well. Windsor, I think the ship has sailed with him. Tholstrup was a debutant this week. He got a 34. Didn't do anything really to excite me all too much, but could be an option if he can stay in the team, especially when players like Harrison Petty and Ben Brown are struggling down forward. For Brisbane, the top scorer was Cam Rayner. I don't think he is viable enough as a Supercoach option yet. He needs to string more consistent games in order to do so. Dunkley, I believe, is now a must-get player. I love his role. His tackle numbers are absolutely sensational, and he's going to get you 110 plus every week. He's one that is now officially dead set on my radar as one of the next midfield targets I want to trade in. Zorko was one that I started this year ahead of Heaney as a pod, and he performed miserably, and then I quickly made a correctional trade to bring Heaney in instead. But Zorko's now moved back to halfback. He's taking in kick-ins. His efficiency is really high with those kick-ins as well. So he's now back on my radar again as a potential player to be traded into my forward line. And it's probably stupid to think I had him, traded him out, and I'm thinking of trading him back in. But I'm also one of those coaches that had Nick Martin, traded Nick Martin out, that I'm now looking at potentially trading Nick Martin back in because I'm an idiot. Hugh McCluggage and Lachie Neale as well both had big numbers, and I'm probably thinking more Lachie Neale more so than Hugh McCluggage, but Neale was nursing that ankle again this week, the same one he injured the week prior, and I don't know whether that's going to mean he's due to sit out soon to rest that ankle, because it was giving him some problems tonight and last week as well. Apart from that, I think Lohman's probably the only other one if you got him in early enough. I mean, he's still at a reasonable price point, I feel, but with other debutants now coming through that are scoring more consistently and potentially have a bigger ceiling, I think they're more viable than Lohman. Lohman played his first full game not being the sub. He scores an 81. I think he did himself a lot of favors in that retrospect. So I don't know whether he's one to consider. I don't know. I don't know what his price point is currently. I might look at that when I start making some trades. But apart from that, that's everything really covered from that game. Now we can officially dive on in to the trades that I'm going to make this week. And as I said, I am going to bring in Closey, and it is going to be at the behest of D'Ambrosio. And I'm probably burning D'Ambrosio a little bit earlier than I would like, but I can't do the trade I want to do by getting rid of Williams. Williams leaves me short on cash. So unfortunately, this is the move I'm making. We are going to... Actually, no. I shouldn't sort by poised. I should sort by lowest. And there we go. We're going to bring in Closey. Bang. That gives me 232k in the bank. And we are going to move on James Jordan, because Jordan, I think, is now going to suffer at the hands of Taylor Adams coming in. And I'll show you why when I show you Taylor Adams' score on screen here. He scored a 97. Now, there is a point to read here, and it's a point I want to make quite clearly. So it was his first game back. He had 17 touches and a goal. He got subbed out of the game, I believe, during the third. It says it was a management issue. I heard it was a hamstring issue. If it was only management, Taylor Adams is now firmly on my radar as an upgrade target, especially if we can get 90 plus out of him early on and he can push a 95 to 100 average. He'd be good for a F5, F6 at best, similar with Nat 5. If Nat 5 can start giving us 90 to 100, an F5 or an F6 could be viable given the fact that there aren't really any forwards currently that are screaming pick me, apart from the one I am trading in this week. One that I probably should have started at the start of the year, but I am bringing in Sam Flanders. Now, he moved to halfback last week and absolutely dominated off of halfback. He is averaging just under 120 Supercoach, so he's going to be good for 110 plus a game, I feel. At least 100 plus at bare minimum. And a lot of people I've seen on social media are saying, you know, what's the point of bringing in Flanders now? He's not going to generate much cash for you. You've probably missed the boat in the way of cash generation with him, but if you're trading him in at this point in time, you're trading him in purely for the point generation he's going to give you. I would rather get 100 plus out of him than a potential 70 to 80 out of James Jordan, or having to play another rookie on field that is going to only score 50 to 70 points. So those two moves this week nets me 30k in the bank. And as I said, my two trades I'm looking to do next week will probably be Tom Berry down to Combin, which is only going to bank me 10k, but Combin's going to make money fast, and Combin's going to get that forward defensive DPP as well, which is going to be very handy. And then Graham is the other one who I am potentially thinking of trading out for Howes, and then when the time comes, I'm going to move either a Roberts or a McKercher, who will both get DPP as well, to the back line, back there, so then I've got a midfield defensive swap, so in case any of my rookies fall short here, I can do a little bit of manipulation around the ground. But banking 30k here is fantastic. If we look at the potential generation I'm looking at next week, we're going to have Howes going down to Graham, which is going to bank me 100k, and another 10k with the Tom Berry move, so that's going to leave me with about 140, 150k sitting in the kitty. That gives me a Briggs to Melbourne, to Melbourne's Max Gawn. I was going to say to Melbourne's Max Gawn if I wanted to go Max Gawn. Potentially also allows me to make a move in the midfield here with one of these guys if I do a boost to potentially go up to another primo midfielder. As I said, I'm looking at the likes of Clayton Oliver, if he can perform a little bit better, but his price point is just too tasty to not be tempted. Christian Petrarca, Josh Dunkley are two that I really want to get in. Jordan Dawson, if he can improve his efficiency in the back end of the season, getting him in while his price is dropping severely is fantastic. Some other trades that I've seen this week, and some trades that I have actually know for a fact some people have gone with, especially people that I'm close to. People have faded Nick Dacos and Brodie Grundy. The Nick Dacos one is, I think, out of fear because of the positional change back to centre half back and the fact that he can't cop a tag. He was tagged for about 20 to 25% of the game last week, moved to centre half back, still cracked 100 points. I think at this point in time, with the money he's dropping, you're better off keeping him, because he's just going to keep on hemorrhaging money if he's going to be tagged all the time and he's not going to be pumping, you know, those 110 plus scores. I think at this point in time, I'm leaving him there, because I still think he's going to score me enough points every week to remain in my team. Grundy to Lloyd Meek has been the move, and I've played around with that idea this week, because that guarantees me a premium upgrade next week if I wanted to do so with a boost. But I'm not willing to rest my laurels on the fact of Meek being a solo ruckman. We don't know whether Ned Reeves is going to be brought in at all, and then go dual ruckman, and that could throw the Meek, you know, kind of situation out the window, you know. So I'm not knocking that trade. I think the Grundy to Meek trade is more viable than fading Dacos, but if it gives you cash generation to move stuff around elsewhere at this point in time, feel free to do it. You know, sometimes you got to roll the dice to make some moves. I know, you know, in some Supercoach groups that I'm in on social media, there are people that are in the top, you know, percentage of coaches that are doing the Grundy to Meek trade just to get some generation to move something, you know, around elsewhere. And I don't know. I'm just happy with how it is currently. Grundy at the moment only scoring the 93 last week. I'm not too worried about, because historically you look at Ruckman over the past couple of years, and we've had Ruckman have slow starts. You look at Gawn last year, you look at Marshall as well. You know, there are some games where they only got the 70s, 80s, 90s, but then they cracked on to get some huge scores. Another Ruckman I'm looking at is Tim English, and his price is dropping because his break-even is way too high. So I could potentially go from Briggs and Grundy to Gawn and English, and that would be a great move for me if I can afford to do so. I've got 29 trades left. I've already used 11. No, we haven't used 11. We had 30. No, we had 40 trades. Yeah, I've used 11 trades in 5 weeks. Not something to be proud of, but, you know, I've been forced into positions by trying to roll the dice a little bit too hard with some pods. As I said, I could have started Heaney. That would have saved me a trade from Zorko to Heaney. If I didn't start short and just stuck with Sheasel from the beginning, I wouldn't have had that trade burnt as well. So there's already 2 trades I would have made up. But that's the name of the game sometimes, ladies and gentlemen. Vice captain and captain options this week. I am rolling with Bontempelli against Essendon. I think he can get 130 plus quite comfortably against them, because I don't see anybody who's going to operate in a tagging role that's going to be able to shut Bontempelli down. And for my captain option, I really think Rosie against Fremantle could pop off. But then I thought about Sarong, and then I realised, no, Willem Drew's probably going to do a tagging kind of run with roll, and he can shut some players down, that kid. So I'm not going to touch Sarong. I could go with Green. I've been playing around with the idea of Green, especially given the fact that they are playing against St Kilda. But would Jack Steele give him a little bit of attention? Marcus Windhager coming back in, is he going to give some attention? And when we turn, speaking of attention, turn our attention to some debutants this week, there are a couple, which we will touch on next week. But I think St Kilda, North Melbourne and Geelong all have a debutant. I know one of which is Garcia from St Kilda. Highly touted, that kid, by many St Kilda fans, and a lot of people were saying Garcia was a rookie that you had to start before round 0, and obviously he's only getting his opportunity now. So keep an eye out on him this week. He's probably on your, if he's not on your radar, not on your watch list, pay close attention. That is it for this video. I think I'm happy with the moves I've made this week. I've obviously now, over the last couple of weeks, brought in Flanders, brought in Powell to my forward line. With Fife there as well. As I said, Fife could very well be a F6 by the end of the season for me. So I'm only essentially looking at 2 more upgrades in my forward line, minimum. My defensive line is starting to really come together. So we'll see how we go there. And then my midfield, we've got some people that are really starting to perform and get some cash generation going. Jeremy Sharp's going great. Riley Sanders is still scoring consistently. Colby McKercher is one that's probably going to plateau soon, so I'm a little bit worried about that, but he'll generate enough cash to hopefully get to about 350, 360, and then that's just a hop, skip, and a jump to getting a 500k, 550k player in. But we'll make those moves when we're ready to do them. Do hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm still trying to find my feet with this kind of formatting and platform, because I've never done Supercoach content before. So I have relied on inspiration from other content creators on the platform that do it. So the boys over at Supercoach Masters have been so fucking kind to me before I was even doing Supercoach videos, just the way that we speak over social media. You know, they've really helped me a lot, you know, allowing me to share my content in some of their groups on social media as well. So to both of you boys, thank you very much. And, you know, my mate over at Supercoach with DR, good old DR himself, I really love the content he puts out, and I feel undoubtedly is one of the best Supercoach, you know, coaches out there when it comes to making content for the platform and for the format. So do go check them out. And I'm sure if you're watching this video, you probably already know who they are, and you probably are watching them already. But I just wanted to give them a little bit of a nod and just thank them for giving myself the motivation and the inspiration to do this type of content as well. If there's anything you feel I could do to make these videos better, I would love feedback in the comments down below. You know, I can't improve without being told where to improve. So let loose. that's it from me, guys. I'm out of here. Good luck to you all this weekend. I'm hoping I can get a big enough score, even though I've got a handful of players missing. These Pirates are killing me. I can't stand it. I can't stand it. But I'm going before I keep rambling. Good luck to you all once again, and as always, I will catch you guys next time.